I worked alongside 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs, friends of mine who were building amazingly successful businesses, except that I used to smile and act like I was a part of them and that I belonged and I fit in. And maybe I did, but inside, the truth is I felt like a fraud. And that's what this video is about, this damn thing called imposter syndrome. By the end of this video, you will hear my story, my journey through it, and how I overcame it. And if you stay to the end, I'll give you all sorts of things that you can do to get this damn imposter syndrome crap off your neck too for good. So this goes out to all the men out there just like me who had this battle with imposter syndrome. I used to pretend like I was successful. I used to pretend like I had it all together. I struggled in my relationships. I struggled in my business. I look in the mirror and I would struggle with self-confidence. I was often so critical of myself that it's amazing I got anything done. I would achieve amazing, really great stuff, but then I would shoot myself full of holes before someone else could. Sound familiar? You're not alone. I tell you what, man, we're going to talk about this imposter syndrome thing. We're going to go through some simple truth about what it really is and what it's not. And here's my big reveal for you, man. Imposter syndrome isn't real. It doesn't exist. It's not something that you have. In fact, I want to give you some good news. You can get rid of it pretty quickly.
Before we get into this, can you do us a quick favor? Hit that like button, then subscribe to our channel. It helps us get this message out to the men who are actually looking for it. We seriously appreciate you. Oh, and hey, if you're ready to take action today, you can also grab free access to our King's Archive. Jeremy and I put together this collection of tips, tools, and real-life blueprints. You'll be able to take quick action and actually see results right away. Get instant access at the link below.
So this is how imposter syndrome affected me. And I'm using the term imposter syndrome just for the sake of this video, because as I told you just a minute ago, it isn't real. But it was sure real for me at the time. And as I tell you my story and it rings a bell with you, keep following along, because I think we're going to have a lot of things in common, which means that you're going to have a lot of things in common with me in defeating it and overcoming it. I want that for you. So here's what I discovered. I hated to feel incompetent. I hated to feel small. It really hurt to not feel like I was accomplishing something. I had a family. I was really trying to give them the best that I could, but I didn't know how to build a business successfully. I worked in a really cool place. I worked in a place where there were a whole bunch of, it was a co-working place full of entrepreneurs, and we were all working on building our business. And like anything in life, some people have an aptitude or a training or an inclination to do really good at things where other people maybe didn't. And the part of me that hated to feel incompetent would watch as I struggled to get people to pay their invoices, or how do I land this client, or I'm really sure I could land this new account, or get this thing done, and then it doesn't happen. So then I'm like, well, what do I do now? I didn't really have a big plan. I was just literally drifting from one thing to the next, and it felt like one rise, one fail, one rise, one fail. It was so much contrast on a big wave. And then I'd look over at the other table, and my friend just landed like 50 new, IT clients, or he and his company have just landed a whole new battery of like services that people are lining up for. And I was like, well, I want to take my kids on vacation, but I guess what we can afford is Quick Trip and get some soft serve. Yay! And then my friend's like, wait, we're going to Disneyland for the 14th time this summer. Maybe we're going to go to Irkutsk and pet the elephants. I was never one for jealousy, but the part of me that hated to feel incompetent really felt a lot of envy. And then rather than asking them for help, this imposter syndrome stuff would just make me get all closed in. So here's one of the other ways it would show up. They would all talk about things that they're doing to grow their business, and I would be a part of the conversation, but I'd make shit up. I was filling in with lots of words, things that I wanted to feel, things that I wanted to see, and things that I really, more importantly, wanted them to see about me. I didn't want them to know what I was really feeling and what was going on inside of me. I didn't want to be outed. I didn't want to be caught. I didn't want them to catch on to me that I was a big phony. So I would talk a big game, and then all of a sudden I still don't have money for rent, or this was really tough. And so when I heard the term for the first time, imposter syndrome, it's like my skin went, that's what we are. We're imposters. We shouldn't be doing this. I tell you what, it's one of the worst things anyone can tell you when you're struggling with your identity, your abilities, with trying to move forward in your life. So let me tell you a couple other ways that I would act out, and then we'll talk about the truth. Some of the ways it would act out were, I needed an audience. I needed engagement on social media. I needed people to like, subscribe, and make comments on my videos. So I would take shortcuts. I would look for gimmicks. If I didn't know how to actually grow an audience organically, then there were services out there. People that could say, hey, it's not buying likes and subscriptions or any of that. It's not buying followers, because that's awful. We play the algorithm, and therefore it looks like you're successful. All the while, I knew it was bullshit, and it felt awful. So the thing I was trying to do to help myself feel more competent really was just making me feel like a cheater. These were all things that I used to do, and ultimately they felt like crap. Inauthentic, incongruent. It's not the man I wanted to be, but that's what I did. So let's break it down. Let's talk about what this stuff really is. It's not a syndrome. It's not a disease. You can't catch it. Somebody doesn't have imposter syndrome. They go on your invoice, and next thing you know, your whole business is full of imposter syndrome. It's not how it works. There's no pill for it. There is work you can do for it, because I'll tell you what you can do. But let's just make it really clear what's going on. First thing is patterns, things in repetition in your life, belief systems, pains that aren't dealt with. All of it, every bit of it, every molecule of what you could falsely label as imposter syndrome is just stuff in your life that isn't processed yet, and beliefs you have about those things. You can change them. You can change them. I'm going to help you change them. Please stick with the video. Let's talk about changing them. First thing is, it all begins in childhood, just like everything does. Listen, man, if you were little, stuff happened to you when you were little, and that affects you when you're big. Ta-da! Big revelation, I know. So let's talk about some of the things that can happen when you're little, like that would happen to me. I didn't have a lot of guidance. I didn't have a lot of structure. I didn't have a lot of organization. I didn't have very much consistency growing up. And so I have weird beliefs about what it's going to take to get those things, but I don't know what those things are. I have an idea. You have an idea. Things that happen to us as children create stories. Here's some examples of things that can happen. You may have a teacher, a parent, some role model in your life when you're a child who never is satisfied with what you're doing. You could accomplish something great, and they talk about the thing that you didn't do great. Or nothing you did, no matter how great it was good enough for someone. That fucks with kids' heads. Your subconscious starts coming up with reasons why, well, this means that, and this means this, and then you end up with that voice for the rest of your life until you deal with it, like I did. You can too. Some of the other things that can happen. I moved a lot as a kid. I went to 18 different schools. And so for me, I never felt like I fit in anywhere. I would be in a new school district, new people I didn't know, a new neighborhood, a new state, and I would just put on a show. I'm like, well, I've got about 6-7 months here, so I'll just tell a big fable about who I am, make some quick friends. Everyone will think, wow, he's fascinating. I mean, there was no Google in the 70s and 80s, so they couldn't background check a 6th grader and go, none of the things you're saying is true. But what happened is, as I got older, that pattern in me, in order to survive the way I was growing up, came up with a way of telling stories that aren't true in order to accomplish not feeling like a phony. See the connection? Does this ring a bell? You got some of this maybe? Some of the other things that happen. This can be a process of inside you have this conversation with yourself that maybe you just lucked out. Yeah, sure, I did some great things, but it was all luck. Like, the reason why it happened, maybe I did something to help it, but really it was just dumb luck. Why does that happen? Because if you feel like a fraud, if you feel like a phony, if you fully own your victories, then that story can't exist. And most of us aren't advanced enough as kids and young adults to undo and dismantle a nervous system's belief system. Here's an example. I have a lot of friends that did this. Here's some accomplishments I have. But before I tell you too much more, I'm going to tell you why it's phony. I'm going to tell you why, here's where it sucked. I'm going to tell you about the cool thing I did, but then I'm going to point out all the faults in it before that you can catch on. Sound familiar? I'm going to out myself, and I'm going to diminish myself, and I'm going to be self-deprecating. I'm going to tell jokes, and I'm going to giggle when I'm uncomfortable. Let's talk about some other parts that you may recognize in your life. What's your mindset? Mindset is a big part of what can create the imposter syndrome. Do you feel like you have what it takes to be able to grow and move and have flexibility, like to flow like the ocean, to be like Bruce Lee and be like Walter? Or do you feel like everything's fixed? So I'm going to pretend really, really strongly that I'm good at the things on the outside, but I have this belief that I'm fixed and I can't do any more than I can do. I was born with my capabilities and I can't have a single capability more. It's a really limiting belief system, but that's mindset. Look it up. There's books on it. It's a good way to start dismantling that belief. Another one is, this one's dangerous, comparison. Do you compare yourself to other people and then end up being defeatist? Here's an example. I knew what I wanted to feel like. I knew how I wanted to feel when I thought about my business or my career or my relationships. I knew how I wanted to feel. But because of the incompetence in my ability to execute on those things, I felt bad. And so I'd look at people and I go, well, they have what I think, they have what it is that I want, and I'd compare myself to them. And guess how good it feels when you compare yourself to someone else? It feels like shit. Now, I'm not learning from them. I'm not asking them for help. I'm just creating like a hallucination in my head. I have an idea of what they're doing, even though I have no evidence to back it up. I'm just projecting and assuming. And then I think, well, here's what I'm doing. If I was them, I'd probably be doing this. But I don't know what this is, and I don't know how to do it. So rather than ask for help, my limiting mindset would just go, well, then you just shouldn't do it. So just make up some shit, and then feel bad about yourself. It's a pattern, so just do that. And then keep comparing yourself, but don't do anything about it. Whee! Feel good? I'm sorry, I hope I'm not just bringing you completely down, but I'm going to tell you again, we're going to get through this. Here's some other things that you need to know. I'm looking at this amazing list I created. Workplace dynamics. Maybe that you're being asked to move into a place that you're not familiar with. Have you ever had an opportunity that comes that's bigger than what you're used to? And then you just I don't know how to step into that. So rather than asking for help or having faith in yourself, you just kind of sabotage it. Another one of those fake terms, self-sabotage. Another thing that doesn't exist. Just trying to do something you don't know how to do, and rather than getting the help and having the courage to step into that space, you find a way to make sure that you don't. And that's all on us. Every one of us that struggles with it. Another one is when you're growing up and you don't have any validation, then you look for validation somewhere else. And if you can't find it within yourself, you come up with this really crappy term called perfectionist. Any of you out there perfectionists? Let's see, there's one. I see one there. Anyone ever said they're a perfectionist and they struggle with perfectionism? Let's just cut to the chase, man. It's a bullshit term. What you're really experiencing is fear. It hurts to be just like everyone else. When anyone I know, thank God I had a lot of struggles. I didn't have this one. I considered myself more of an imperfectionist. Sometimes I'd laugh about it, make self-deprecating jokes about what a incompetent boob I could be. Perfectionism is the refusal to believe that you're just like everyone else. So you create this wonderful patina of shiny stories of a bar that's somewhere up there. You can never touch it, you can never grab it. It's ethereal, it's not literal, it's not measurable or quantifiable, but there's this bar, and you're always there looking at it. And if anyone just knew how great the thing you could do is, if you were perfect, they'd be like, whoa, what an amazing person. But you hide behind the term perfectionist. Don't do it. Just say, I'm afraid and I don't know what to do. Speaking of just saying you don't know what to do, that's really the key to this. Let's talk about where to go from here. Because I think we've all bummed each other out now talking about what this is. I know I can look back on probably a great deal from like the year 2000 to about 2015 and go, ugh. This whole concept of imposter syndrome took a lot from me, and I let it happen. I wasn't necessarily conscious of it, but I let it happen. So let's just summarize a little bit. This imposter syndrome bullshit label comes from your belief system, your patterns, the way that you're handling your pain or not handling your pain, experiences, trauma, difficult things that you just don't know how to do. And there's a big bunch of stuck in the middle of it. Rather than asking for help, you don't. Or if you do ask for help, you try to control it so much or paint a picture that you really don't get any help. Or you try to control circumstances when you know really you're just like a crazy duck kicking his legs in the water, not going anywhere. If you have an understanding that there's a lot of reasons why you feel the way you do, that's the beginning of this. So I'll end this part by saying, I want to reassure you, nobody is saying that the things that happen to you, I'm certainly not saying that what happened to you is your fault. If you were neglected, abused, treated badly, if people cut you down, if you weren't validated, if you never really felt like you mattered and that when you really tried, it never seemed to work, I'm not saying that the things that cause that in your life are your fault. But let's just talk brass tacks now. You want to talk about how I overcame it? I made a step to say, I don't care anymore how it got into my system. Right now, it's my responsibility to do something about it. And that's where the big difference was. How many of you have seen the videos where somebody gets up on stage or they get a mentor? Maybe you got friends in your life. Perhaps you've even done this yourself. There's something in my way and I dealt with it and I feel like a champ. And you can have that little moment of healing and aha, and it makes a difference in your life. It's that. That's how you overcome the imposter syndrome. You take one step. What's one step you can take today to move all of this in the right direction? I'll tell you a little bit more about my story. In 2015, I had a huge life event, major change in my life. And I had two amazing little daughters at the time. They were 10 and 8. And I knew, you know what, regardless of what I'm going through, whatever I'm feeling, my daughters need their dad. They need 100% of their dad every day. They're scared. They're nervous about the future. They don't know what's going on. And you know what they don't need? They don't need a dad to model more confusion and struggling with self-esteem. So the first thing I did was I started to look for help. And I'm not talking about really expensive therapy. The first step to this is forgiving the past. I don't know how to forgive all of it, but I'm willing to start forgiving. I'm going to put a quote up for you. It's one of the best that I've ever heard. Forgiveness is giving up all hope of a better past. Let me say that again. Forgiveness is giving up all hope of a better past. Let me tell you what that means to me. Bad relationships, mistakes I've made, abuse that I've experienced as a kid, trauma, difficult times, they're all in the past, but they're affecting me right now. They're in my unconscious mind, they're in my conscious mind, they're in my memories. They're all over my excuses and my stories. And somehow I thought that if I could just hold on to the pain, maybe somebody from the past would show up and go, oops, and then that part of my past would feel better. That's not how it works. And I had to let go of that. I found a group of people that I could trust. And it took some time. But what I'm telling you is the first step to this is you forgive and then look for help. I found help. And I started with a group of men talking about the shit they're going through. And that was helpful to start with. But it was more of a loop. Every week they'd just show up and say the same stuff. It didn't seem like they were growing. I'm like, okay, that's not for me. My daughters need their dad to be a champ right now. And I got to champ state, but it took me time. I eventually found a group, and I call this men's work. In a men's group, I found men just like me going through the same crap in their own way. They accepted me for who I was. They accepted me for my realness and my phoniness, my stories, my truth. They took the whole Jeremy and said, come on in, let's do something about it. And I started to do something about it. About 10 years worth of doing something about it. I'm telling you this because whatever you're going through, whatever your patterns are, whatever you're stuck with, they're not you. They don't have to be you. They don't have to define you, and they can stop confining you. If you just take one step, what's one thing you can do today? What's one moment you can look in the mirror and go, you know what? I don't have to be so hard on myself. And pick somewhere very specific. If you cut yourself down, if you have negative talk, let's just pick something. Here's an example. Andrea and I are really good at helping people find these things now because, I've done the time in my own shadow, so I know what it feels like to shine in your gold. We told a friend of ours, after an hour of listening to you, I wrote down a pattern that I see. I told him, you have listed off something you're great at, and then you immediately cut yourself down. Like, just spend a week or two catching yourself saying that. Write down the pattern as it comes up. Pay attention. Another one could be, write a list of things that you're really proud of that you've done. Look at things that you've actually accomplished and then stop. Like, I did this. No more story. Catch yourself. Where do I tell stories where I don't need to tell stories? Where am I self-deprecating when I don't need to be self-deprecating? Where am I comparing myself to people when I don't need to compare myself to anyone? Rather than doing the negative thing, ask yourself, what could I do instead? So that's the next part of this. You forgive some things. You start the forgiveness process. It takes time. You get some help, and then you start identifying the patterns. And when you start identifying the patterns, wake up in the morning and ask, how do I want to feel today at the end of the day? And what's in the way of that? How would I like my life to be? And what could I learn to have that? Don't try to do something huge. Do something small and specific. It all is cumulative, and you will have an enormous breakthrough. There'll be lots of little ones, and then all of a sudden a big one, and then some more little ones, and another big one. I tell you what, whatever you have to go through, whatever fire you have to walk through, man, stop making stories, stop coming up with excuses. Do the work. It's the only way out of this. It's on you. Not telling you this out of lack of compassion. I had to walk through my fire. Fucking hurt. My feet are burnt, but you know what? I healed. And I healed 10 times stronger than I was when I was in this phony mode. So I would love for you to, let's just engage. Talk with me. What's something you're really afraid of? What's something you're really struggling to look into? What's one area of your life you're like, I don't know how I'm going to overcome this? Let's talk about it. Go into the comments and share it. I'd love to hear it. Andrea and I, this is why we're here, man. We don't want men to struggle alone, to hurt on the inside when they don't need to. So let me just pull this all together. I used to suck lemons and suck eggs, and now I don't. And you don't have to either. Let's just break it down. You don't have to struggle. The things that you experience that are in the way, you can get out of the way. You don't have to be out of alignment with your values. You don't have to be a phony. All of these things can be dealt with one at a time. You can deal with the little scared kid inside of you. You can deal with the hurt that you have, and you can deal with them one at a time, one story at a time, one pain at a time. And we've got this. Join us in this channel. We talk about this stuff all the time. Andrea and I are coaches. We would love to hear from you if you think we could help. If you feel in alignment with us, drop us a line in the links below. I want you to have the best freaking day ever.
Here, we don't shy away from real talk. We're committed to helping you live your best life, both inside and out. So if you're digging this, don't stop here. Check out this next video and keep the real talk going.
Ah! Oh! Oh!